Welcome to Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial, the home for financial advice in a language you can understand. Created by Marc Freedman of Freedman Financial, he and his team of certified financial planner professionals will discuss timely topics that help individuals and families make smart financial decisions. And now, get ready for this week's edition of Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial.
Welcome back to another edition of Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial. My name is Marc Freedman.
And I'm Marion Gilman.
And we're here to provide you with some financial advice in a language you can understand. Well, clearly the past few weeks have been a little interesting, as they say in the world of the markets.
May you live in interesting times, right? And guess what? We are.
We most certainly are. You know, you and I both traveled the past couple weeks.
Yeah.
And
it was a good time to travel.
Yeah, it was. But
we missed the craziness on certain days.
Yeah, but for those who were at the office, I mean, the phones rang, and were they ringing off the hooks? No.
Honestly, I think we got more calls because it was tax time as well than really we were getting about the markets in general.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, most people, you know, I'll go into the butcher shop or I'll go into the barber shop or whatever, and people are saying, "Oh man, Marc, I feel bad for you. The phones must be ringing off the hooks."
Yep.
And you know, they really weren't. With the exception of, like you said, Marion, it's tax time.
Right.
So a lot of people have found that they owe taxes this year. And why did they owe taxes this year, Marion?
So they made a lot of money last year. You know, last year, although we might forget looking at what the markets look like today, last year in 2024, we had an excellent year in the stock market. And that means that there are a lot of capital gain distributions for anyone who took money out of the market or who took money out of their accounts. There were capital gains when we had to liquidate. There were also, dividends were also very high, and interest rates were high. So those CDs at the bank, the bank accounts, the money market accounts at the bank, you know, people were used to getting 0 on those accounts, and they were getting 4 or 5%.
You're right, and that was one of the big surprises was the interest payments that they had been, well, they said, well, I'm just reinvesting them. Well, it still doesn't matter. You still have to pay tax on that.
Right.
Whether it's, you know, a money market, a CD, whatever it is, those interest payments are taxable to you as well, if they're in a non-retirement account, of course.
But you know what? It's a good problem to have. You made money. I mean, that's an excellent problem to have.
But just as we had a pretty good year last year, we weren't getting inundated with calls from clients saying, "Oh my God, this is so great. Tell me more about why I've been making so much money."
Right.
You know, we don't get those calls, do we?
No, we don't. No. They do. They are much happier, I think, when they come in and the market's up than when it's down, as are we.
Of course. And the market is a lot, I mean, the news media is so much kinder when the market is up than when it's down.
Yeah, you don't really hear that much about the Dow Jones soared when it's up 100 points, whereas when it's down 100
it's a free fall.
It's a free fall.
Right? It's crazy, right?
I know.
And, but you know, the conversation has changed recently. I find it amazing that we talk about news cycles on this podcast. We actually talk about them in the office. This week, who's talking about Doge?
Yeah, there you go. That's non-existent.
Non-existent,
anyway.
right?
Yeah,
who's talking about immigration and deportation? Who's talking about Ukraine and Russia and Israel and Gaza? Everything is about what, Marion?
Everything is about a recession. Everything is about the market going down.
And tariffs.
And tariffs. Absolutely. I mean, it is just the tariffs.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, we held a call with our clients earlier this week. Of course, if you listen to this podcast, you probably got an invitation as well. We had over 135 people on the call with us on Monday. And we're going to fill you in a little bit about what we talked about and the way we're talking with our clients, which is really no different from times before. But the one thing that I will say is this time it's different, but it's not different. Look, we've had some of the treacherous periods of time we had were 9/11 and the financial crisis and COVID and several things in between.
2022 was a very bad year.
When interest rates were shooting up. Remember, we had interest rates at pretty much 0% at the bank, but bonds had their worst year ever in 2022.
Yes, I mean and that is the nice thing right now is that bonds have actually held up well for the most part. I mean there have been some, some volatility here and there, but bonds have actually held up the portfolio, which is what we expect it to do.
Yeah, and it's normal to see 10 to 15% drops, believe it or not, in any given year. It's part of the plan. The problem is we hadn't seen it for almost 2 years. And if you've been with the office for 3 years or less, you never felt it go down with us.
Yeah. And you know, that's not, although it sounds great, it's actually not a good start, I think, to using us as portfolio managers, simply because, you know, again, we take a very holistic view of it. We look at financial planning in general. We create diversified portfolios. And if all you see is your portfolio going up, all of a sudden you're shocked when it goes down.
Yeah, and I think it's funny when accounts are doing well, and you know, we had these conversations in 2024 as we looked at your 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, 15-year returns, and you're seeing really attractive performance numbers that were beyond what our planning suggested. And we said to you, hang on, this is not going to happen year after year. And you'd all say,
don't expect.
I know, I get it.
Right.
So when the market's up and we would make recommendations to rebalance out, to say, let's take some of our winners and move it into something that isn't doing so well, there's this hesitancy to want to do it, despite the fact that we all know that it's important to buy low and sell high. So instead, we get calls when the market's going down. Should I get out?
You should get in. You should actually add more money. That is the time to buy.
But, you know, that's easy for us to say. It's
Right.
easy for somebody who's accumulating wealth, but where 65% of our clients are retired, they don't have excess cash flow to say, oh my God, this is a great buying opportunity. They probably have enough money in an emergency fund in the bank. Their portfolios are well allocated. They have income from other sources. But Marion, I think maybe you can tell the story about how the lessons that we learned in 2008.
Yes.
Because 2008, that market dropped 35, 40%. And we had a lot of clients that were either in retirement, approaching retirement, and it made us rethink how we were going to build portfolios moving forward.
Well, one of the things that caught us by surprise, and you know, as we've told you, everyone, we actually create net worth statements for our clients so that we know what people have in other places. Even if we don't manage all of the money, we know what they have at the bank, what they have in their retirement accounts at work potentially, because we like to keep track of that. It's extremely important to have an emergency fund at the bank, and that's one of the first principles that we start with anyone who comes to the office with any planning we do. We want to be sure that they have 3 to 6 months living expenses at the bank that they can actually access very quickly. And one of the things that took us by surprise during 2008 and 2009 was that people had used all of their money at the bank, and they were relying on their investment accounts as an emergency fund. That is not a good strategy. But we hadn't updated all of those bank account numbers as frequently as maybe we should have.
And now we are so diligent, or vigilant, maybe I should say, about
Yes,
that.
yes.
When you come in for a review appointment at our office, we are updating all of the elements of your net worth statement to make sure that our plan is still on track.
Right.
But what else did we do about some of our investment positioning for our retired clients, Marion, especially with bonds?
In terms of the payouts.
To
as well.
prepare
Is that-
for,
yes,
yeah, to prepare if
exactly.
there's a downturn.
So we always, you know, we have a very well diversified portfolio, and one of the things, about 65% of the clients of the office live off of the money that they have invested with us. So we know what those monthly distributions are, or the annual distributions that they need to continue their lifestyle. So one of the things that we're also very, very diligent about, and always have been, was that we keep at least 5 years of distribution money in bonds, in something that is less volatile than the stock market. And that pays income distributions, such that we know that even if the stock market is way down, as it is, let's say this week, you know, or last week, or whenever it might be, when we're down 15 to 20% in the stock market, the last thing we want to do is liquidate from stocks. if a client needs some money. So what we do is we're sure that we have the money in bonds, and we liquidate from there. Sell low, buy high, right?
That's right.
I mean, buy high, buy low,
buy low and
high.
sell high.
Sorry.
It's part of our strategy. It's strategic. You know, oftentimes when times get tough, people try to get tactical. Should I buy this stock? Should I get into this? Should I get out of that? Someone actually asked me this past week, Mark, what other types of investment strategies besides stock funds and bond funds and ETFs and index funds and cash are you recommending in environments like this? And I told this client, I said, look, you're going to hear all sorts of solicitations. You'll get phone calls, you'll get mailers about things called alternative investments. You'll hear about currency plays. You'll hear about all different types of what I'll call esoteric investments. Could we incorporate those in your portfolio? Absolutely. But frankly, we have found after 30 plus years that we've been doing this,
right,
that long term, it really doesn't help. It might make you feel good because we did something. We were out with somebody yesterday who was telling us about a broker that she talked to at Merrill Lynch, right?
Right.
And he says, you know, as financial advisors, we're either in the moving business or the storage business. And in the storage business, you're more of a buy and hold strategist. That's what we are. If clients want action, they want you to be in the moving business. They want you to be moving and moving and moving and moving, depending upon the environment that we're in. And we are really, really careful about focusing on staying in the storage business because it has served us and our clients so well.
Right. And, you know, honestly, a lot of those strategies, they work for a short period of time, or they're very specific to a, you know, again, a certain time frame or something that's going on in the market.
Or a sector that's in play or whatever it might be.
Exactly. And we're just not tactical. That is not how, and honestly, I don't think anyone should be tactical. I don't think there's, you know, for most people, you can't do that successfully, where, you know, in terms of getting in and getting out of the market at various points in time along the way. And it's been shown, I mean, that people who try to time the market, they are just not successful.
And sadly, as we've mentioned multiple times, if you aren't coming up with a new idea, a new strategy, a newfangled something on the news, you're not on the news.
Right.
If someone were to interview us and say, well, Mark, where do you think the market's going this week? And I said, I really don't care. Yeah. That's not going to get me an invitation to come back. Right. You know, what are you telling your clients?
Nothing exciting.
What strategies are you putting into place right now, Mark, in light of the tariffs that Trump has put into place, or whatever it might be? And the answer is, we're sticking with our financial plan. Right. We know over the long time it's going to work. Nobody is going to keep hiring us to do conversations like that.
And you know what? Here's the thing. Your money is a tool to create the lifestyle that you want. You have certain goals in life, and that money should be used as a tool to do that. It's not something that you should be worried about day in and day out, where I've got to change something, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. No, it should be in place, set up to create your future lifestyle.
And there's no question about it. There are accounts, values of accounts are down. Maybe they're back to about 12 months ago.
I will tell you, though, I just had a client that came in, and I said, we were presenting we were looking at the financial plan, and I said, by the way, those numbers are updated as of yesterday. They were like, really? Oh, that's yesterday?
It's not down as much. Because
not nearly what
right, because you're not all invested in the stock market.
Right.
You're well allocated. And so one of the things that's really great, I think, about what we're helping our clients with is because we do financial planning first, because we use the net worth statement, because we build cash flow analyses, our clients can still, in times like this, look to us and say, can I still retire on the trajectory that I'm on? Can I continue to spend money while I'm in retirement? Do I have to make any dramatic changes? And in most cases, the answer is, keep doing what you're doing. We planned for this kind of stuff.
That's right. We create our plans with the thought that we will have these types of corrections.
Going to happen.
That's right.
And that's what we call financial advice in a language you can understand. If now's the time for you to get serious about your financial planning and investment management needs, we'd love to meet you. Our phone number is 978-531-8108. That's 978-531-8108. Or visit us on the web, where you can get information about who we are, what we do, our services, our fees, the types of clients we have. You can even sign up for our free weekly newsletter. All you need to do is go to our website. That's freedmanfinancial.com. That's Freedman.
2 E's and a D.
Financial.com. It's that easy. Put your name and your email address at the bottom of any page, and our free newsletter will land in your inbox every Friday at 10:30. That's going to do it for us this week. And Red Sox season has started.
Ooh.
Celtics are heading into the playoffs. Things are really good around here. Well, the Bruins aren't doing so well, but we're pretty excited about what's going on.
Aren't they done yet?
Maybe. And spring's coming. So have a great day, everybody. We'll see you again next week with more financial advice in a language you can understand. Have a great day.
Enjoy.
During today's episode of Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial, your host may have discussed specific financial planning and investment ideas that are for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations. Please remember that investing involves risk and may include loss of principal. Always consult a certified financial planner professional, qualified attorney, or tax advisor prior to investing to determine what is appropriate for you. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA, SIPC.